Welcome to the Your Technology Tutor program, where you'll learn how to be more successful using personal technologies like Mac computers, iPhones and iPads, useful software, cool web tools, videotaping and editing, digital photography, and more. And now, here's the host of our program, Your Technology Tutor, Chet Davis.
Welcome to the program. Today's program, Your Technology Tutor, where together we learn to become more successful using personal technology. Hello, my name's Chet Davis, otherwise known as Your Technology Tutor. Great to be with you. Today's topic is one that every person who has or uses a computer, a smartphone, a tablet, and uses that device to connect to an online service with a password should pay close attention to. But it's kind of like, well, how can I put this? You know, when I was thinking about it, it's kind of like income taxes that we have here, at least in the USA. Most of us, at least, fill out the forms and submit them along with sometimes a payment, sometimes the request for a refund on April 15th each year. It's not a topic that's very sexy or appealing. It's not a topic that most of us fancy chatting about, but it is so important. It's been estimated that each user, the average user on the internet, has about 25 accounts, online accounts, that require passwords. And it's said that we type an average of 8 passwords each day. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Well, let me start the show today by telling you a brief story, a true story, a summary, a synopsis. So there's this gentleman who's pretty well connected, and this is not me, by the way, but it's become well known in tech circles. Pretty well connected on the internet, pretty tech savvy. In fact, he worked for a technology magazine. And one day last year, he's online, and he starts to see that he no longer has access to his digital devices, to his iPhone, to his iPad, to his laptop computer. Slowly, but kind of quickly, one by one, he loses access to those, and he sees, frighteningly, that his digital collections are being wiped clean. Hackers got into his digital identity and took over his online presence. To control his Twitter account, a 3-letter Twitter account, Twitter name, that apparently is very prestigious, and that was their primary and ultimate goal. But they didn't want him, if he saw what they were doing, to be stopping him in their tracks. They wanted to continue on with their path. And so what they did is they essentially took control of his devices remotely, and then were able to go in and access his information and finally get to his Twitter account and post instead of him. He's on a crusade now. In a recent Wired magazine article, which is the magazine he works for, he talks about passwords and the digital identity. We're going to talk a little bit about some of his learnings in today's program, along with some recommendations from the other privacy and online experts about what to do to protect yourself. But long story short is this. His summary is that passwords are no longer of value. In fact, I'm going to point to some other experts who would agree with him today. And the biggest trick is passwords really were created for a time and a place when there was not this online hyperconnectivity, where all your accounts weren't connected across the electronic universe. But now, you know that when you try to go to a new service, oftentimes you're presented with the opportunity to log in using your Facebook identity, or log in using your Google account, or your Yahoo identity. And there's a couple of others out there that are kind of universal gateways to get into different services. And here's the downside of that. The upside is it's so convenient. The downside is once they're all interconnected, if somebody gets access to your digital playground, to your digital yard, they have the access to walk through most of everything that you have, which is very frightening. And I'm not here to scare you, but just to alert you. So again, here's what we're going to cover today. Why passwords and why they're outdated. We've already started with that. What's being developed instead of passwords. We'll talk just a few moments about that. But spend the bulk of our time talking about the practical steps, what you can do now, today, tomorrow, this week, to keep your digital life as secure as possible while passwords remain the primary means of, gaining access to everything near and dear to those of us who play in the digital universe. All right, so again, why passwords? Again, they were created at a time and a place when there was not all this interconnectedness. It was a place where you had essentially one service that you're trying to access. And I was reading in preparation for the show today, one of the earliest, not really a hacker, but one of the earliest people who found an end runaround was a gentleman at MIT as a PhD candidate. The students there had a login program that only allowed them to access the mainframe computers for 4 hours at a time, so that other students, they essentially, okay, your 4 hours are up, we kick you off so somebody else can gain access. Well, one of these PhD candidates found, via the computer, he found the list of the passwords that were distributed to the students that were acceptable passwords, and once he had that list, he could just type in another password and gain another 4 hours and another 4 hours and so on. So he wasn't hacking to gain, information from anybody's account, but early on in the 1950s, this was one of the first signs. Okay, that's a little strange here. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. So, we saw early on evidence that the password is something that is not totally secure. And you and I have seen a number of articles online in our print newspapers, in broadcast media, where some big companies like Sony, was it last year, with their excuse me, the PlayStation was hacked, and people's online accounts were at risk of being shared because those folks who had credit card and personal data in the cloud with Sony via the PlayStation platform were open to hackers. A team of hackers got in, and Sony had to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to rebuild that network and ensure that there was no longer that data breach. So, I was reading in some of these companies, a serious single hacking event could cost the company up to $1 billion in lost revenue, in time and expense that is generated to make it safe again and to close the gap. So very, very frightening. So what's being developed to replace passwords? There's a couple companies, Apple and Google are at the forefront, followed by some other companies. And in summary, Apple is working on fingerprint access. It's rumored that the next iPhone that we'll likely see by fall of this next year, by fall of 2013, is somewhere between July and October, depending on the sources that you're touching base and when actually Apple comes to market. We'll have a device that will let you secure your phone with your fingerprint, which, as you may know, is highly individualized. So that's an interesting technology that allows phones to be even more secure and thereby allow you to feel more comfortable using that personal data. I, for one, and some of it's maybe a little bit of paranoia. I don't know if that's the right word, but I think extreme caution is more appropriate word here. I don't do any of my banking using my digital devices. I don't do any banking using my phone. Yes, I have passwords on my phone, so if my phone is lost or stolen, no one can gain access easily to, the other information that I have there. But I choose not to do any personal banking using my phone. I am a little bit leery. Very leery, actually, of NFC technology, near field communication, which allows you to take your phone and just get it near a device, a reader essentially, a transmitter-receiver situation, and allow you to generate payments in that way. That's the coming thing. Apple has an app called Passbook that lets you put in your coupons and credit cards and gift cards and so forth. Some of it's exciting and very convenient, but I'm just a little leery because I feel that the digital universe is a little bit too new in that realm, and it's been said that a lot of the hackers, cyber thieves, criminals who play in the realm of technology, are continuing to focus their attention on thievery options available in the mobile space. So Apple's working on a fingerprint access technology. Google, interestingly, is actually working on a password ring, a ring-shaped device, and they're playing with a couple of different scenarios that would allow the wearer to not have to type in any codes, and will have this device available. And it will actually be a wireless transmitter of sorts as well, so you can use it on some of their wireless digital personal devices. So when you're out and about using the Google Nexus device, a tablet or a phone, you can use this to access password-protected accounts. Very interesting. There are researchers in Sweden and Japan who are working on other developments in terms of biometrics. Not only retina scan, but also the way that you use the device, the way you touch your keyboard, the way you touch the surface of your device, the angle at which you approach it, the speed and the kind of finesse that you apply when you're typing to identify individuals. Because even the folks at PayPal, the director of security at PayPal, really says passwords are outdated. Passwords are a thing of the past, and they're actually posing more problems than they are providing security. So that's why there's a huge development towards replacing passwords with something much more secure. All right, so we've talked a little bit about why passwords, why they're becoming outdated, what's being done to replace passwords. Let's jump into what you can do really to begin to protect your digital identity, to make it as secure as possible. First of all, the privacy experts, the online experts say really there's the biggest goof relative to passwords. There are actually two big goofs. First and foremost, we should not use the same password for all our accounts. Raise your hand if you're guilty. I know you're looking around. I won't tell, and I'm certainly not targeting you. I'm not going to suggest send people your way, but the reason why is this. If a hacker, if a cyber thief gets access to one of your passwords, to your password if you only have one, then they have access to all your accounts. Okay? So you can imagine if somebody, through illicit means, maybe they fool you into thinking, I get these emails all the time. Okay, and I have a tutorial on my website that talks about I am getting emails regularly, several each week, that look official. From I've gotten them from Facebook. I've gotten them from that appears to be like FedEx and DHL and some of the other companies. They use their corporate colors. They use their logo. They put in a fake recipient sender that looks like it's an official thing, saying, hey, we need you, your account's been compromised, or we need you to check in, here's some information for you, click here and enter your password. Red flag. Okay, number one, red flag, big problem. But people are falling for those, and I can understand why. If you're kind of less comfortable, less aware, it looks like an official communication, but it's not. It's a hacker. And so all they need is that one password. Once they gain access to that password, then they have access to additional private information. And they will, if they find out where you're banking, for example, then they will try that password at your Wells Fargo branch, okay, at your First Union Bank. And guess what? Bingo, a lot of times they gain access, which is frightening. So they not only have access to your social media space, that they have access to your banking information, to your credit card information, to your Netflix account, to your iTunes account, and so on and so on and so on. So very, very frightening. The recommendation then is to have multiple passwords, especially separating passwords between financial or business accounts. Anything tied to a credit card in a bank should have a separate password than the passwords you use for social media sites, for your photo sharing sites, for the fun side of technology. You should never use the same password across those. Okay? In fact, in a perfect world, the privacy experts recommend that you would have a different password for each and every site. So in the unfortunate event that a hacker gained access to your account, and again, remember, it may not be you gave access to that account, but if thieves broke into an institution's file server, like has happened a number of times the last decade, and access the batch of names and passwords, then they have access to all that information, and oftentimes they'll sell it on the black market to some other thief who's going to go in there and try to harvest information, and really harvest the dollars sitting in your bank or charge against your credit card. So by having a separate password at each institution, you're mitigating the damage so that it only is that one place they gain access to. You might ask, well, how in the world, if I have 25, if I have 35 or 60 places where I have to enter my passwords, how in the world do you expect me to remember all my passwords? I've got some solutions coming up at the end of the program for that. So, first thing, use multiple passwords across different accounts. Second, biggest goof, and this is one that's so easy to clear up. If you use one password, which you shouldn't do, if you use 10 passwords, use passwords that are not so darned easy to guess or figure out. Okay? Let me go to my list over here, and the recent list shows up pretty much every year. Guess what the number one password is used in the latest surveys? The number one password used is password, Password. If you're using that, you got a smile on your face, but you know what? Go change it. Change it right now. That is frightening. Second most common password, 123456. Third most common password, 12345678. Fourth most used password, ABC123. And then there's things like monkey, let me in, dragon, baseball, I love you, sunshine, master, welcome, shadow, football, Jesus, ninja, Mustang, password, and the numeral 1. See, somebody added a numeral 1 thinking, that's going to prevent some hackers. That's frightening. Okay? So, also common passwords are to use your first name, or your child's first name, or your pet's name, or the city where you were born. All of that is incredibly foolish. I don't know any other way to say it. I guess it's foolish if you know it and you continue to use it. If you're just learning that information, good for you. It's a time to make a change, because that's the big problem. Not only do hackers type those in manually if they're a low-level hacker, but they have computer programs with algorithms that actually will go through. Once they have a valid email address, they will go through some of the most common passwords. They take these lists as well and put them into their computers and try them. We're advised these things here. Do not use words spelled backwards, common misspellings, abbreviations. Do not use sequences or repeated characters like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or letters that you see going across your keyboard, the QWERTY, QWERTY, which, by the way, is also one of the top 10 passwords people use. The safest passwords do not contain any real words. Those are vulnerable to hackers using tools that will churn through words in the dictionary and will churn through the names of the people close to you in your personal life, because that information is available for many of us on Spokeo, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Hackers have easy access to much of that information. So, examples. I'm going to give you a website, too, that will generate passwords. We're going to talk about services that do this for us. But one of the best ways, so that you can not only, because you can make a 26 letter long password, 26 character long password, and it would be really, really difficult using letters, numbers, and symbols, uppercase, lowercase, but really tricky to remember. So one of the recommendations is take a phrase and make a password, create a password from the first characters of that phrase. For example, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, so Pablo Sandoval of the San Francisco Giants. I know if you're not a Giants fan, you're awing and oohing. But, for example, Pablo Sandoval is a home run hitter. So I take the first letter, P-S-I-A-H-R-H. Pablo Sandoval is a home run hitter. I add the numerals 1-2 for 12, the last year of the World Series, and a symbol like the pound symbol. And what I have is a password that's P, capital S, capital I, lowercase a, capital H, capital R, capital H. This is confusing when you're listening to it, but you're going to look in the show notes and you'll see. But this is a great way because it's something I can remember. I don't even have to write it down. I can remember that, but it's nothing that an algorithm, even in a computer, is ever going to figure out. Okay? In the show notes for this program, and I'm going to tell you how to get there at the end of the broadcast, is Microsoft, for one, has a create passwords page. You can type in. It'll generate tricky passwords for you. And you can also enter in the password that you use now or the password you're thinking about using, and it'll give you a rating, a scale as to whether it's a good password or not. How secure it is, how safe it is. Okay? So those are the two most important steps. Multiple passwords. Use multiple passwords across different accounts. And secondly, create passwords that are not so easy to figure out. Third recommendation, suggestion, pretty universal across the experts in the universe, is to change your password every 90 days. Change your passwords every 90 days. Some of the online services that I do automatically require me to do that. They won't let me in. They say, okay, your password's coming up, for due. It's been used the last 3 months. It's time to create a new one. And I can't get into the service if I don't do that. That's really cool. That's advantageous. In fact, some online privacy experts say that some of these websites out there that are letting people in using these foolish passwords, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they have the technology available right now to say, nope, can't use that, pick a more secure one. But they're saying that the danger for the businesses are they want it to be convenient for you to get in. They don't want you to say, oh, that's too hard, I'm going to go. I don't want to sign. I don't want to join that website. I don't want to do my online banking. They don't want to do that. So most of us have seen, it doesn't work. You have to do 8 characters. You have to do at least 8 characters. And that is a minimum requirement by most experts, by the way. Don't use passwords fewer than 8 characters, okay? So change your passwords every 90 days. So how can you possibly manage all these passwords, right? Well, best is to use what's called a password vault, a service that keeps your passwords for you, okay? Now, I use a service called LastPass, L-A-S-T Pass, P-A-S-S. There are a variety of others, and I'm gonna go ahead and place them in the show notes for you, some other suggestions. Some of them are free. Some of them come with what I would consider a nominal fee that is paid annually or monthly. Some allow you to retain those passwords across multiple devices, so you can set it up on your desktop, laptop computer, and it will also work in an app when you're online with your mobile device, your smartphone, your pad, etc. So that is highly advantageous for 2 reasons. One, you can have very secure passwords, and these services, by the way, you click a button and it will generate a complex password for each website if you want it to. Then it keeps that in memory. How you get in, you have only then one master password to get into that password vault. And the benefit there is if you're using one of those, phrase type passwords that I shared with you, like our Pablo Sandoval password a moment ago, if you're using one of those that's very complex, it's going to be very difficult for a hacker to ever get that. The other thing is, each time, if a hacker somehow uses a downloadable application that goes to the hard drive of your computer, and they have this, spyware, that keeps a recording of every keystroke you make on the computer. That's why some of those cyber thieves do that. They know when you're going to First Union Bank, for example, they can record that you're going to that website because you typed in the website address, and then they record the keystrokes after that that are your username and your password. And guess what? They have access to your account. Well, if you're using a password vault, you're getting into the password vault, but you're not typing in that bank's password. And you can even have it set up so that the password vault will automatically log you in, so you're not creating any keystrokes when you're on your own individual device. So very, very smart. Very smart. Okay? So again, a password vault that keeps the passwords for you is the best possible way. Using a high-level password to get into that password vault is the best way to maintain your security online. Let me give you two others, though, if those don't work for you. Second is to store your passwords. Use separate passwords that are good, secure passwords. Store them on a document that you have on your local computer. Okay? So you might put them in a Word document or in an Excel spreadsheet. Put the name of the service, your username, and your password, and then save that locally, not in the cloud, but save it locally on your own device as a secure document. Okay? You may know there is the way in the recent versions of Excel and Word, etc., for you to password protect your documents. Okay? And I'll put that in the show notes, the page that walks you through the steps to actually password protect your documents. So that's so number one, use a password vault. Password management idea number two is to store your passwords on a document that you have on your local computer, and that document is password secure. Third best option, which again is better than nothing, is to write your passwords down on a piece of paper that you keep secure somewhere. Now, this doesn't work if you're a college student in a dorm, and lots of other people are walking through your room. You got a roommate, and excuse me, and they have access to all your data hanging around. It's more if you have your own apartment, you have your own home, and you have the ability to kind of keep secure. We're not really trying to prevent someone from breaking into your home and then accessing your computer. Really, what we're about in this program is preventing folks remotely out there on the internet from accessing your digital identity. So, then you can go ahead and put that information down. So before we wrap up the program, there's something I like to do each and every show, and it's called My Cool Find. My Cool Find. And, it's either a website or an app or a service that I think is particularly noteworthy, useful, interesting to share with you. And today's Cool Find is an app. It's a browser. It's available in smart TVs. It's called Pandora Internet Radio. And I've been using the service about, 3 years, maybe going on 4 years now. It's based on what's called the Music Genome Project. Pretty darned amazing. Pandora is a service delivered over the internet. That's why they call it, internet radio. And it allows you to create your own custom radio stations. You can actually listen to other people's radio stations, and they have some automatically created. But the really cool thing is, you can customize your learning experience. So, for example, I like all kinds of music, but one of them is classical music. And I can type in classical guitar. If I have a favorite composer or a favorite artist, a favorite musician, I can type in their name or even put in a very specific song title or composition, and it will build a radio station saying, okay, Chet likes that song or that artist or that kind of music. This, according to the Music Genome Project, is similar enough. Let's play this next and play this next. And then you have the ability to do thumbs up and thumbs down to skip content that you do and don't like. And every time you do that, you're kind of training your own specific channel, the kind of music that you prefer, the kind of music that you like best. It's pretty darned amazing. And Pandora Internet Radio is free on your desktop and laptop computers. They do have free apps across Android and iPhone, iOS platforms. It is not, at this point in time, they just changed their terms of service last month because of the charges they're having to pay the music industry. There is a nominal fee each month if you go more than 40 hours on your mobile device. But up to 40 hours, it's free. I recommend it. In fact, I have a class on udemy.com, and that'll be in the show notes. It's a free class where you can learn how to create and use your own custom radio station. Again, today's cool find is Pandora Internet Radio. Well, that's it for today's program. I hope you found this valuable, useful, interesting. Again, such a terribly important topic, and I'm so glad I was able to spend this time with you to help you get more comfortable. Next program, our topic is going to be keeping your tech clean, keeping your technology clean, why that's so important, and how to do that. Until that time, Chet Davis, your technology tutor, signing off. Have a great rest of the day.